What if I told you some farming businesses can make you money even when you're sleeping? No stress, no constant work, just smart systems working for you. But here is the truth. Not all farming is like this. And today, I'll show you the ones that actually are. Number 3 is something most farmers are sleeping on right now. Welcome back, guys. And if you're new here, this channel is all about smart farming, reduce costs, and building real income streams. In today's video, I'll show you 5 farming businesses that requires less stress daily. You can run it semi-automatically and still make you consistent money. But don't get it twisted. Lazy farming doesn't mean no work. It means working smart and not hard. Let's get into it, guys. Number 1, snail farming. This is one of the closest things to passive farming you'll find. Why is it lazy? Snails don't make noise. Of course, they are where they are and you can never hear any sound from a snail pen, except if they are predators, okay? They don't need constant attention, which means you don't have to be there all the time, provided you feed your snails. And you know, of course, they are nocturnal animals and they feed mostly at night. And feeding is simple. You have to only give them vegetables or leaves. The startup cost or the setup capital for this business is around 50 to 100,000 Nigerian naira, which is around, which is less than $100. Okay, so what is the money potential? Snails reproduce in large numbers. The achatina can give you lots of egg on yearly basis. And of course, there is high demand in restaurants, in hotels, in schools, in bars, and so on and so forth. Okay, and they grow slowly. So in this business, patience is key. And of course, you guys should know that this is a kind of farm you check and not babysit. You don't have to be there all the time. Okay, that is what I mean. Number 2, catfish farming, but of course with a system. Most people think fish farming is stressful, but that's because they are doing it wrong. Why is it lazy? There's automatic feeders that can reduce stress, which means in some systems, you don't necessarily need to be there. There are automatic feeders that feed the fish even in your absence, okay? And you only monitor water and feeding schedule, which means you don't have to be there at all times to monitor your business. You don't have to be there at all times to monitor your fish. You know, once there is an automatic feeder, it just keeps rolling over. So what is the smart move here? You set up a simple routine instead of constant checking on the fish. You know, you should have a routine maybe in the mornings and in the evenings, and that's it for the day. Okay. And in this business, there's high demand across Nigeria. You know, you can easily scale. And the reality is, if you ignore the water quality, you lose everything. So the quality of your water in this business is one of the most important things that you need to consider. Okay. This is not hard work. It is actually smart monitoring. If you're smart about it, of course, you scale in this business gradually. Number 3, the black soldier fly farming. This one is the definition of smart farming. Why is this a lazy business? The larvae feed themselves on waste. These larvae literally feed themselves. Once you've given them the feed from the onset, they continue to feed on this on this feed, on what you give them to eat on. You know, they continue to feed on these things until they mature. So all you need to do is to stir them on regular basis, you know. So there is minimal daily attention. You don't have to be there at all times. This larvae can actually continue to feed on what you gave them from the first day. And of course, they reproduce naturally. They reproduce on their own, so you don't have to do anything like mating or whatever it is. Okay, and the big advantage here is that you're producing free animal feed. You know, you're literally producing animal feed from waste. Okay, and you know, for you to make extra income in this business, you can easily scale by selling your larvae to farmers. Fish farmers can buy from you, poultry farmers, pig farmers. It works for every system. Okay, you must manage hygiene and set your farm up properly, okay, for you to scale eventually. So this is one farm where your waste does the work for you. Every waste in this business is very, very important. Pig dungs, poultry waste, and so on and so forth. It's money in the black soldier fly business. Okay. Number 4, free range poultry. You know, this is different from regular poultry farming. And why am I saying this is a lazy business? The number 1 reason is that birds find part of their own food. Okay. Of course, in a free range system, birds will be the ones to search for food themselves. Even though you don't feed them, they get to look for food around their environment. You know, droplets of of rice here and there, bread and so on and so forth. They eat ants and so on. So yeah, they don't depend on what you feed them. They can actually roam around and get food for themselves. And there's less dependence on expensive feed, so you don't have to buy the commercial feed for them. They literally will not depend on what you give them. They can fend for themselves. So sometimes once in a while you can just feed them anything you can find, and of course there is less daily stress. So this is a lazy man's business. All you need to do is buy the birds and put them in your farm. What is the advantage in this business? There is lower feeding costs, and of course you have healthier birds. And of course there's high demand for local chicken everywhere in Nigeria. Of course, there's high demand for local chicken everywhere in Nigeria. Of course, you still need security and proper shelter, because if you don't monitor your birds in this system, people can easily steal your birds. Okay, so instead of feeding your birds, you let your bird help feed themselves. Of course, it's a very, very lazy business. Now, the number 5, vegetable farming. This is simple but extremely powerful. Why am I saying this business is lazy? The number one reason is that once you plant your crops, it mostly need only watering. And if you plan your planting probably during the raining season, all you need to do is just take out weeds. Your crops will eventually grow themselves. So you can also set up a system that is semi-automated. There's something that will water your crops, and of course you don't have to be there to monitor the crops all the time or water it yourselves. The best crops to plant is the ugu leaf, the spinach, and also lettuce. You can also put in maybe watermelons, cucumbers, and so on and so forth. Okay. The advantage of the system: you can harvest very fast. There's daily income potential, and of course, consistency is key. You can't neglect the business completely. You have to be there. Even though it's a lazy business, once in a while you have to find time to go to your farm and look things out. Okay, this is one of the easiest way to earn while doing minimal work daily. Now let me be honest with you guys. There is no such thing as 100% lazy farming. But what I've shown you here is a smart farming system. Okay, you reduce your stress, you reduce your cost, and your farm works for you. So if you had to start one of these businesses today, which one would you choose? Drop your response in the comments. Okay, I'll reply and guide you. If you want a full step-by-step video on any of them, let me know. Guys, don't forget to subscribe, like, and I'll see you in the next one.